It's time to start putting MDFC lands in your deck.
We're going to talk about every single MDFC land right now.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. Check us out on YouTube. Oh, you're done. You already did that. Well, next step is check us out on Discord. It's a free community. You can join and play games of Commander. After you've mastered those two things, you can go to Patreon and become the ultimate fan.
Yes, and that's how we'll know you're the ultimate fan, because when we see your name pop up on Patreon, like, dang, that's the ultimate fan right there.
And you transcend to a higher point of existence, I think.
I can't confirm that yet. I don't actually know, because I'm not my own. I am a fan of me, but I can't reach that point. But that's okay.
I don't patronize myself.
Yes, exactly. So hopping right into this, we're talking about all the MDFCs today. We're talking about the mythics. We're talking about the rares, the uncommons, every single one. We're going to go over them, and we're going to tell you which ones you should put in your deck. There's only like a few you should avoid, but these are stellar.
Yeah, we got to start out with a general sense, because we did talk about these in the past. We have done nothing but praise them, especially before they even came out, because we kind of triggered and realized, hey, these are really good. So we try to communicate that to you guys. And so now that we've played with them for a couple months, what are our initial thoughts?
Okay, I think one thing that's changed from the beginning cycle, I think that if you're trying to play anything, let's just say 7 in lower, not just budget. We originally said the tapped ones are going to be great for budget, not just that. These are great for any deck 7 and lower. I think these cards are absolutely stellar. Almost all of them. Again, like we said, we're going to go over them. We'll tell you which ones we like and don't like, but seriously, if you're not playing any in a deck, you should consider it.
And by 7, you mean power level 7 out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, not only are the ones we thought good, but more of them are good than we thought. So basically, if anything, we underrated them, and I don't think anyone was hyping them up as much as us.
Yes, we were hyping up quite a bit. The mythics are still free rolls. There's still a lot of the rare ones that people are throwing in. But I think one thing I really like about these is what they can do for your land count. That is absolutely insane. I am playing a 38 land deck, but really, it's a 34 land. No, so I'm playing 30. So I have 5 MDFCs.
33.
It's a 33 land deck with 5 MDFCs. I'm not missing land drops, but simultaneously, I'm not flooding out. It's great.
They mitigate flood and screw. How many cards do that? None. When we recommend, just keep in mind, and we're going to talk about these, every single one of these, there's only 30, and there's 6 in each color. These are a unique set of magic cards. I would say don't compare these to any other magic cards, because usually you could make a mistake. Like, let's say there's a removal spell, and it's a land on the other side, and neither half is that great. You can't really compare this to another removal spell, because if you're just looking at, all right, I have to play a removal spell. Play the best removal spell you possibly can, not some poopy removal spell that is like conditional and might not work. But these are lands on the other side, so the discussion like totally changes for all of them.
I agree with that 110%. I think the best way to think of these are going to be free rolls, because they're going to be a land instead. The best place to replace these, if they're replacing a tap land, great. That's really awesome. And the other replacement is basics. If you're replacing a basic, sure, you're going to slow down your deck a bit. But the times that this is going to be the spell on the other side, you're going to get way more than you could have ever gotten out of a basic.
Yeah, we'll just hop into them. These are in order of mana cost, and they're in Wooburg order. So what's the first one?
The first one is Kabira Takedown. It's 1 white for an instant. Deal damage to target creature equal to the number of creatures you control. I suggest this for any single deck that is going to be able to easily have 3 or more creatures on the board.
This is one of the best white ones. It goes, the mythics are all the best, obviously, but then this is the next best white one. This is the one that's going to go in like the most decks out of all the white ones, I think, aside from, the mythic.
I think what this card says is play creatures and reliably have 3 to 4 on board. If you're doing that, boom, this is instantly in your deck. Another thing that we didn't mention yet about these MDFCs, 3 colors is usually where I'm going to stop with them. I'm not going to play too many above 3 colors. But 2 colors I'm going to play as many as I possibly can. 3 I'm going to play like 3, 4 if I can. And 1 color I'm going to play as many. Yes, I like literally get as many as I can in my deck.
I mean, 1 color, you're probably looking at 3 or 4, depending on the actual color, because some of them are just not good.
Yeah.
You don't want either half. That's very rare. And Kabira Takedown, build around one another. Just build around Doomblade. That's also a land.
Yeah, you just got to, exactly. again, like I just want to state this. This card is so good because it's a removal spell that most of the time you just play tap to land. That's fine. You hit your land drop.
Right.
Or you just kill a creature. Again, it's built around the sense of, are you playing creatures? Yes. Okay, get in my deck.
Yes. Doomblade sucks. The last time I'm going to talk about this. Doomblade sucks. Outnumber sucks. They're terrible. Never play them. Kabir Takedown is a land. Play it all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. If Doomblade was a land on the other side, we'd be talking a lot more about Doomblade.
Yeah, our tune would change quite a bit. So next is Sagiri Shelter. This is 1 white for an instant. Target creature you control gains protection from a color of your choice. This is if you're looking to protect your commander and you got a couple extra slots, or you can squeeze this for a tap land or a basic. Well, now you just have an extra way to either protect your commander or sneak through a bunch of damage if you're like a Voltron deck.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It's Voltron commander decks or big stompy decks or stomp, and then again you're on white, so it's not like you're in a ton of big stompy decks. This one doesn't have as many homes as like Kabir Takedown, because white is already known for going wide. That's one of its big things it's known for doing, whereas it's not totally known for going tall.
No, and you're not really trying to protect yourself from spot removal that much. This can serve as a weird counterspell if you're trying to get a creature in, or you have some kind of crucial combo piece.
Yeah, I think that this one, the funny thing is, I think Kabir Takedown and Sagiri Shelter are like close in power level, but the fact is of what kind of decks white plays and what you're going to see out of white, Kabir Takedown's just going to fit in more decks.
And then like the commander format, I'd rather kill something than protect from some kill spell I may or may not actually get to protect from. Next, Skyclave Cleric. This one's weird. It's 1 white for a 1/3. When it enters, you gain 2. So it's either a 1/3 for 2 or a land.
I would only ever play this with heavy synergy. Like, I care about clerics, maybe. The 2 life gain is not going to be relevant enough. This is one of the worst ones.
Well, I don't know. I remember Josh Lee Kwai made an interesting point. He had built a red-white equipment deck, and he was like, well, the one thing equipment decks never ever want to do is run out of creatures. So he's like, I just have this as a 2-drop creature that's mostly a land.
I think what I would put, okay, I think that fits into what I said of heavy synergy. You always want a creature out, and those are specific decks. So if your deck really cares about that creature, that 1/3 that's not this super relevant creature, then yeah, it's great. Like I said, you care about the cleric body, you just care about always having a body on the battlefield with an equipment deck, then yeah, I think this is fine. But I do think this is still one of the worst ones.
That's still, there's some like other weird stuff that I'm thinking about now. Like, what about this in a deck that cares about the number of like creatures in your graveyard? Kind of like if there was like a 2-color Carador. Well, it's a land. I'm never going to play it as a creature in my hand, ever. But when it gets milled, it's a creature. So it like counts for stuff. That's really interesting. There's so many places to put these. There's so many weird boxes they can tick. And I'm not even, what I'm saying has nothing to do with what you're saying. So don't even pretend like it does.
It does. That's caring about the body a lot.
Yes, I agree. I definitely agree. What's the next one?
The next one is McKinsey Stampede. This is 3 white. It's a sorcery, and all your creatures get +2/+2 until end of turn. This is also one of the ones, I don't recommend playing this one too much. Doesn't give your creatures trample, doesn't give them evasion. You really got to have a lot of guys to be getting enough out of this card. But again, it's still a free roll in your land slot. If you're going wide, consider it.
I'm kind of on the budget only for this one. Okay. I think this is the worst white one.
I think Skyclave Cleric and this one they're close. I'm not gonna nitpick which one is.
I actually just don't think they're close. But I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs. All of these are playable.
They're all playable. Yeah.
I just think there's more corner cases for Skyclave Cleric. I think the only corner case for Stampede is like you really need a pump spell and you're on a budget. Like, I'm just never finding the time to do this in like a 7 or a 6 power level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel the same way about Skyclave Cleric, where if your deck's powerful enough and doing its thing, you're never gonna want it.
Maybe. They're the worst too, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. Definitely in the whites. These are the worst too. I guess I feel your statements about McKinsey's apply to Skyclave for me, but again, these still have homes. It just, if you want to make sure your deck really wants these ones, because these ones are inherently powerful by themselves.
Yeah, I wouldn't slam all 6 of these in like a white deck. At that point, you're going to start experiencing, oh, my deck's running a little bit slower. I'm like a turn behind sometimes. Well, it's because you got 6 tap lands. So pick your battles. Maybe eliminate some of your other tap lands that are in the deck for these, because these are just going to be so great.
Yes, exactly. Next, we have Ondu Inversion, which is 6 white for a sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents. This is planar cleansing for 2 extra mana and 1 less white, but land on the other side. I think this card is better than planar cleansing in most decks. Again, we stated in a recent video actually. I think if you're playing green and you're ramping green white, this card's like a free roll as can be.
I'm cool with just saying it's better than planar cleansing, just straight up. Like if you could include one, I think always play onto Inversion. Like what power level are you at where you can cast a 6 mana triple white board wipe, but you can't cast an 8 mana board wipe?
Yeah, I do think, you know what, you're probably right. It's probably just better. In a lot of cases, I mean, the fact that it's the tap land again, helping you not miss your land drops. Chef's Kiss absolutely just, it puts all these cards into this weird tier where it's like, sure, we're talking about bad planar cleansing. Bad planar cleansing. Like if it doesn't have the land on the other side. But all of a sudden, I didn't miss my land drop, and I get to go up to 7 lands and not miss a land drop, but I don't have to. Or it's late game, and I wipe the board. What other land wipes the board?
Nothing. You're top decking. You're in a 1v1 scenario. I mean, with the next card, we'll mention that more. But like top decking, okay, let's look at like the percentage of our deck that's spells. Your deck is just 5% or 6% more spells than everyone else's deck who's not taking this advice or doing this, or just didn't feel like putting them in their deck. You're just going to beat them in a top deck war over time if you run the math.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one is Amiri is called. This is the mythic one. I'm not going to read what it does. I think that these have been spoken for mostly. Again, I've had this. You just get 8 power instead of a land.
Well, see, this literally came up, and I basically lost to this card. We were in a 1v1, and you just were like, all right, well, we're kind of both low on resources. Oh, I drew a land. No, I didn't. Here's 8 power, and my other creatures are indestructible this turn. And then I just lost because I got beat down because we were kind of on like plan B because we both answered each other's stuff. I just lost to this card. It's a stupid land. I wouldn't have lost to a basic plains.
And yeah, just to state this now, on the mythic ones, they come in untapped if you pay 3 life. These ones are the freest of the rolls. I think for 1 color decks, 100% of the time. For 2 color decks, 100% of the time with both of them. 3 color decks, the ones that specifically work for your deck.
Right. Maybe you want one of the 3, depending on which ones. I think these are the ones that, more so than the rest, can creep up into power level 8, not just 7.
I think they can creep. I think,
or like 9 or 10. Just they're in your deck.
Exactly.
Oh, here's 1% of the time, 8 power, indestructible for the rest of my things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
I think if you're playing like an 8, if you're playing the 8 and the 9s and you're 1 or 2 colors, again, these still go there. I think the fact that these can just be untapped, the 3 life's not going to be relevant when you're playing that higher power level. Absolutely, get these in your deck.
And it's not just the choice of 3 life, it's the choice of a tap land. Turn 1, you have nothing to do, tap land. It's not like you always take 3 damage. Just, they're so good, we can't talk about them enough. We made a whole video about them. We're not going to spend as much time on the mythic ones, because they are 100% worth your time. Mostly going to go like over with the rest with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes. The next one, we're moving into the next color actually. It's blue, and it's Bayons Veil, which is an instant for 1 and a blue. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-0. I want to say this one's unplayable.
This might be this is definitely one of the worst ones. If you've got some kind of creature heavy thing going on, you could make a weird meta call, but I think it's better to just leave this card out of your deck, not make the potential mistake of playing it. Sure, it's still got the same thing going. It's a spell or a land, but if you never ever cast the spell and it's never going to be good, then you'd rather just have an island.
Yeah, I agree completely. The spell is not very good. Again, it's a meta call thing. If you play in a super go wide sort of crazy meta, something like that, sure, go for it. I mean, I'm not saying that never, ever, ever play this card, but I'm going to avoid it generally. And I think once you start building at a 4, which is when you really start taking the deck building stuff into consideration, that's when this card just kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones you can forget, and we'll go ahead and lump Jawari Disruption in there with it. Mana Tithe sucks. I know some people love Mana Tithe, and if you really got to get your Mana Tithe kicks, okay, this is probably like the safest Mana Tithe you can play, because the 99.9% of the time when Mana Tithe doesn't do anything, you can go, whew, at least I have a land.
No, it's funny. I don't like Jawari's Disruption that much. I don't think it's a powerful spell. I don't think it's like awesome. I strongly suggest over Bayons Veil, because at least the amount of blowout you're going to get with this is going to be so much higher on average than like Bayons Veil. Yeah, once in a while it's like, oh, I really got them, but the Jawari Disruption is like expropriate. Oh, got you with my...
How bad does this feel?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this card's very good, and I'm not like advocating playing it. But again, this one has like a weird fun factor.
Yeah. You got blown out by a card that costs less than the full art basic they would have played. Get owned. Next is Glasspool Mimic. It's 2 and a blue for a 0/0. It's a shapeshifter. It clones something you control, and it's also a rogue. Obviously, it's an MDFC. This is second best blue one. This is going to do so much work for you. It's a clone.
It's clone. I mean, it's a 3 mana clone. I mean, which again, we know that card's bad. We've seen it. What was it? Mirror Image?
Yeah, mirror something. It's like a core set uncommon. It's only a clone for your control. When we say clone, we're shorthanding to something you control. So it's not like the best creature on the battlefield. It's your best creature on the battlefield or a land.
Mostly a land. Again, just always think, I'm going to play this as a land most of the time. But then my land is going to also just be this cool clone. If you're playing like, it's definitely cool in like any type of Sakashima type deck where you're going to be doing tons of cloning and tons of cool stuff like that.
Yeah, if you can clone legendaries, if you can clone creatures with ETBs, even a legend with an ETB, who cares? I just pay 3 mana for the ETB.
A lot of my, a random note, a lot of my MDFCs in my deck just are flipped all the time because I know I'm going to play them as a land almost every time. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, wait, this one's got a spell on the other side.
Yeah, I tried that, and it definitely did not work for me. I could not actually handle playing technically the wrong way, so it just bugged me.
Oh, it really bugged you?
Yeah, big time bugged me.
Okay, that's fair. What do we have next after?
Next is Saloon Division. I have not tried this one, but it doesn't seem that bad. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 6. You can get an instant or sorcery into your hand, and the rest go on the bottom. This one's weird. It's almost like a Spellslinger. I would put it in like a Spellslinger budget type slot where your deck probably has like Goblin Electromancer in it, where if you can reduce the cost of this, it's sweet, and otherwise it's a land.
Yeah, exactly. I think this one it's just specifically Spellslinger decks. If you have a high concentration of instants, of sorceries, then this goes in your deck. Otherwise, I mean, just avoid it. If you're playing 60 creatures in your deck, obviously you don't want Saloon Division.
Yeah, this one, I don't think of always direct 1-for-1s for all these because it doesn't really matter. But this one, I'm just totally imagining you just cut Impulse for this in like your budget deck.
Well, I imagine you cut Island.
Well, something. You could cut Island, or if you've got like like some dorky cantrip, like try this.
Yeah, Impulse is a good card though. Impulse is 4 for 2, but this is a land.
Yeah, 6 for 3 is pretty much on par with 4 for 2 though.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Next we have Umaro Wizard, a 4/3 wizard. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard, it gets flying. I don't like this one at all. Again, if you have wizards, merfolks, you have to care about that wizard, care about that merfolk. Then it's okay. Otherwise, I think we're just off this one.
My issue with this one compared to the 2 mana creature on the other side is I never want a cat. This is like a vanilla. It has no real text. I think you might just be better off not including this one. Even as a merfolk, you're paying 5 mana to like try to trigger something. It's just probably not worth whatever the trigger is.
I think it's all about just what your deck is, what power level you're at, and what you're looking to really get out of that deck. I don't think this one will be relevant often enough for you to care. Sometimes it will, but I think the percentage is so low on this one that you're going to be better off with Island most of the time.
Yeah, Skyclave Cleric checks a few boxes. If you have a life gain trigger, 2 mana, you triggered it. Creature spell, creature cast, creature dies, 2 mana, you're triggering it. This is like 5 mana, and by that, I don't know of a cast trigger that I'm really stoked about for 5 mana. There's probably corner cases, but we're going to bring it up. This is the blue. Blue has the weakest ones, I think.
Oh, for sure. Also, same thing. I wasn't high on Skyclave Cleric, which is a 2 mana creature. I'm not high enough 5 mana creature either. That with a body that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, like it hits. Not even. I wouldn't even say it hits hard. It hits harder, but I don't think that matters.
Yeah, I mean, 10 hits with this, they're dead.
Wow. You know what? Maybe this is great. All right, next, Seagate Restoration. It's the mythic blue one. It's 7 mana. You draw cards, and then you have no max hand size forever. This one has just been sweet for me. I have a sort of like an all-in control deck where you're like holding up instants and sorceries, and then on a certain turn, you just go, okay, I'll play my land, but it's actually a 7 mana spell, and now you can't ever beat me.
Yep, I think Seagate Restoration is absolutely awesome. Again, we're not talking about the mythics very much. The mythics are free rolls in 1 and 2 card decks, and sometimes in 3.
They're insane. They're so much better than the ones we're talking about that we're saying are great.
Yes, exactly. So, Seagate Restoration, awesome.
They're all A+.
Yes. Moving on to the next color, we have black and versus Malachar Rebirth. A 1 mana instant. Target creature gets, when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield. Under your control tapped, you lose 2 life.
It's actually worded super weird. I think it says choose target creature you control, period. You lose 2 life, period. Then it gives the creature, it's like really weird.
Whatever.
I'm not correcting you. I just wanted to point out that it was weird.
Yeah, it does all the things that I said. I think this one is very, very good. It's weird because I think the 1 mana difference here and the fact that you get ETBs again takes it over Sagiri Shelter.
Yes, definitely.
Sagiri Shelter can protect from exile spells and can protect from a little more stuff. But the fact that this dies and comes back, redoes ETBs, all of that kind of stuff, and it's 1 less mana, this one really gets a huge boost. I've played this one, and I've been very happy with it.
I don't even look at this one too close to Sagiri Shelter. It's so much better in my head. This has offensive uses. there's like you're barely ever using Sagiri Shelter on offense. If you have any white auras or equipment, they get unattached with that. So it's just kind of finicky. But this one, you're like, okay, target my guy and then board wipe. Oh, my guy comes back. Or attack you, you have to block, comes back, get the trigger. Just cast it on a random creature, sack it, draw a card, creature comes back.
Yeah, I think this one does have more uses. I mean, Sagiri Shelter does have the unblockability thing in certain bird states. But, I mean, again, I think they're comparable in the way of, like, they both protect creatures.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do think Malachar Rebirth is the better one and the one you're going to want to play more often. If you have a black-white deck with one slot, it's Malachar Rebirth every time. I actually don't play Sagiri Shelter in my Liza deck, but I do play Rebirth. And I do play a couple more of these.
Yes. Next is Hagrid Awakening. Spoiler alert, this is actually just, I think, the best MDFC. Period. This is the one that I can see in even like full-on TEDs because it only costs 3, and then you're paying X to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures back on my land. A++ Hagrid Awakening, so good. It's a little pricey right now, but you're gonna need them. It's so good.
Yeah, pick them up when they rotate out. Next we have Blackbloom Rogue, which is a 2/3 with Rogue text ability. You don't really worry about that. I think this one is not very good either.
It has menace. It can be a 5/3. It actually probably is a 5/3. It's pretty easy to get 8 cards in someone's graveyard.
Yeah, I think the best thing to look at here with all these creatures is they're just not relevant enough. The creatures are the weakest of these because they're just poopy creatures.
Yeah, your upside isn't really, what is it, just a vanilla creature? It's not really worth my time in most cases.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's rogue decks out there that probably actually want this. I think just forget about it other than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a card that I'm not saying never play this, never play the wizard, but like, again, these bodies and creatures are so much worse than the instants and sorceries we're getting.
Yeah, it's just, at some point, your deck can't be all tap lands. So even if all these were on the same level, you kind of got to pick, 5 or 6. You can't just play like 12 of these.
Exactly, yeah. Next, we have Palakka Predator. This one stinks. I think this one is almost a 0%er. I really don't want this. I mean, I think that the best way to look at this is that, yeah, it's still better than a land in a lot of cases, but it's not better than the other MDFCs we have choices of.
Yeah, this one's weird. I can imagine spots where it's really good. It's good in 1v1 scenarios. I mean, maybe if you play a lot of those, I would definitely consider this. I guess if you like to play one-on-one EDH, this is like pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this one's completely fine in that. But other than that, I mean, I'm just going to avoid this in all cases. I don't think there's a deck I'll put this in from here until the future unless I have something specific. I guess it's okay in a Turgid deck.
Ooh,
that's about it.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's your land in your Turgid deck can do something decent. But other than that, I mean, just avoid this one. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, look for like hyper synergies, like where you can steal the card into play like that. Otherwise, this is not very great. Here's one that's great. Hagrid Mulling, 2 black. It's murder, but it's a land on the other side. If you hadn't guessed that by now, murder sucks.
Yeah, murder's an awful card. It's completely unplayable in EDH. It's not even close. Again, you're just turning a land into a kill spell. I think that, again, the removal spells feel super good. Being able to answer a threat or play your land most of the time is great. Again, I used to stare at the back of these. Usually, that's a land. Oh, wait. Or is it?
I like staring at the front. You draw an opening hand, like, no lander. Oh, 2 lander. I'll keep.
I think that's the reason that I like having the lands out, because then I can actually 100%. I never miss it.
I have no issue with spotting MDFCs. This symbol's big enough.
It's big enough and it is recognizable, but I've never
mulliganed a hand with MDFCs in limited or commander.
I mean, but I'm talking about natural reaction where I look at a hand and the first thing is no lands. Oh God.
But even if that's the case, then a second later, like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I'm just talking about natural reaction. That's all I was talking about.
Well, anyway, Hagrid Mulling, try to ignore all your instincts on murder sucks, because it does. But this murder specifically, this is the only murder in the entire format that does not suck.
Yeah, exactly. Next is Zoff Consumption. 4 black. Each opponent loses 4 life. You gain 4 life. This one's not very good. I think it goes only in something. Just look for synergies. If you're keeping your opponent's life totals low, you're draining them out, you're doing stuff along those lines. I have it in my Liza deck because I have like a little sub-theme of like draining them out and keeping their life lower. But other than that, I would avoid this in most cases. You're not going to be happy to, like, even when you get to, like, say you draw us on the top of your deck, draining each opponent for 4 isn't that good. Again, unless the deck has the synergies.
Yeah, there's a couple cool things. I saw it do some work in your Liza deck. I imagine this is very good in like a Crick style deck where your goal is make my life total super, super small, then switch. And then, oh, well, now you just have a kill spell, but it's in a land slot where you can just kill a player.
Yeah, again, I'm avoiding this at most costs. I do have it in deck. I'm not going to say, again, when we say that we'd avoid these in most cases, doesn't mean we're never going to play them.
Now we get to move on to red. First one here is Spikefield Hazard. It's red for an instant. Deals 1 to any target. If a creature or planeswalker is dealt damage, it gets exiled instead of dying. You know, it really depends on what you're doing. If you're really worried about an X1 or a lot of mana dorks, maybe. This is kind of in the lower half for me. This isn't one of the ones I'm thinking of when I go, ooh, MDFCs.
This is one of the worst ones, I think. I think it's awful. I don't ever really want to be playing this. It'll do something sometimes, but I don't want to have to wait and look for those situations where this is going to be good. And I'd rather just have Mountain 99% of the time.
And let me paint you a picture of that 1% because I just figured something out. Mm-hmm. The 3/2 from like core set 19 or whatever it was that says your instant sorceries have death touch. This is a land that is now going to kill something. You have a 2-card murder combo.
You have to play that,
and you're red black.
You have to be this weird red black spellslinger deck. Get out of here! You have to get out of here.
I found the 1%. That's all I was saying. Next is Shatterskull Smashing. X red. It's a sorcery. It deals a bunch of damage divided. This is the mythic rare, so it enters untapped. So it's completely bonkers. A+, auto include, Staples Veil. You know how we feel about these.
Yeah, exactly. They're great. Period. Period. End of sentence. Moving on. Next is Kazul's Fury. This is 2 in a red for a fling, which means in addition to cast it, you sacrifice a creature and deal damage to any target equal to its power. I think this one is super awesome. If you're playing Stompy decks, I have this in my Gruul Stompy deck. There's tons of big creatures. I'll go and kill your 7/7. No, I'll kill you with my 7/7.
Fling is the perfect effect. Fling stinks. I feel so bad including a stupid fling in my deck because you got to jump through so many hoops to make it work. And this one is, I haven't quite got there. Land for turn. Okay. And I have no worries about it. 100% has some application. If I'm ahead, I get to just, hold this up and then crush somebody's hopes and dreams. And if I'm behind, boop.
Yeah, exactly. There's not these crazy homes for it, but again, if you're playing a big dumb Stompy deck, this feels super awesome.
Any deck with big creatures, I'd recommend this. Full stop. Yeah. Actually, I don't think you really even need. Well, I have the synergy if I want to. It's like, no, if you've got giant creatures, I would just play this.
Yeah, exactly. We've already talked about the color restrictions on when you want to play these and that. If you're within the color restrictions, just throw this in, especially if your commander's power is high.
Ooh, Grevin.
Yes, anything where your commander's power is higher for whatever given reason, just throw it in.
Yep. And next is Valikute Awakening, 2 in a red. You put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many +1, and it's an instant. This is a nice little meatball. It's not card advantage, but it's like card selection. So it's like an instant speed cathartic reunion effect. The only downside is they don't go to your graveyard, but the upside is you can do as many cards as you want, including 0, and just cantrip this. And if you care any at all about drawing cards and triggering things that say draw cards or drawing twice as many cards instead, this is insane.
Yeah, one thing about this one is that you don't actually go down a card. Like cards like Faithless Looting do put you down a card, but this one does not. It absolutely it keeps you even because it adds that +1 onto it, which counts itself, which makes this that much better. You just don't want to. You want to be careful. You don't want to. In red decks and white decks, you don't want to be going down too many cards too quickly. If you just cast a Faithless Looting, then flashback Faithless Looting, you're down 2 cards. You're down 1 card. You're down 1 card, but you won't. Sure, you looted, but you're still down a card, and it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, and don't have that problem with this card. Exactly. It just doesn't put you down a card.
Yeah, I like Valikute's Awakening a lot.
Yeah, I've had situations where this has come up. I have this in a deck, and it's like my hand is trash. I'm trying to assemble. It was my Brutaclad tokens deck. It's like I already have tokens. Now I need to find a way to clone a creature and then make a weird token and then make 1 million of that. None of these cards do that, so I'll just put them all on the bottom, draw 7 new ones, and I win.
Yep.
Find a way.
Yep. Next we have Songmad Treachery. This is a 5 mana act of treason, or what's the original one? Because people were
threaten.
This is a threaten effect for you older players who don't want me to call it an act of treason effect. So you take a creature, untap it, it gains haste, you can attack with it, and then they get it back at the end of turn. If you're playing a threatened deck already, or you're doing a ton of these effects and you're sacking the creatures and you're doing stuff like that, sure, consider it. Otherwise, I think this is pretty low. I think threatened effects overall are pretty bad. Though, somebody just wanted to I got killed because I was playing Big Stompy and somebody played Insurrection today.
Insurrection.
The super active treason. No.
Put Insurrection on a tap land, then we'll talk.
Oh my god.
We did build an active treason tribal deck, and this would be questionable even in that because it was 3 colors.
Yeah, this card's whatever. I think it's perfectly okay. Insurrection stinks, and you stink for playing it.
Dang. Well, Akun Warrior is very expensive. It's a 4/5 with trample for 6. This one I think you can stay away from. It's even more expensive and does less than the Merfolk Wizard. So I just think you could avoid it and generally be happy. And I think red really only has 2 duds. Well, I guess 2.5 duds. Got 3 good ones.
Avoid the creatures. And it's just a safe note. If you're like, are these MDFCs good? And you're not, and you can't remember exactly what we said don't play the creatures mostly.
Mostly. I think the green and white ones are good, and then don't play the rest of them.
I think they're okay and they're fine. But like in general, the spells you're getting tend to be much better than these poopy creatures. Like we could take downgraded spells because they still have powerful effects.
Especially instants.
Usually when you start downgrading creatures, it's like, oh, but there's so many good creatures in EDH.
Yeah, actually most of the spells are instants now that I'm thinking about it. There's like 2 sorceries. So now we're on green. Green probably has the best ones because I'm looking at them and there's no bad ones. So the first one is Vasswood Fortification. It's the worst one. It's not even that bad. Green for an instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Oh, are you a +1/+1 counter deck? Okay, are you 1 or 2 colors? You probably want this. This will trigger things and even potentially do some combat stuff.
Exactly. I think it's all if you care about +1/+1 counters, there you go. This card is perfectly reasonable. I also think there's this weird, cool synergy that I just think is funny, where if your commander has 6 power, you can give it that 7th power to make it a 3-hitter.
Or if they've taken like 2, or they're at like 20, or they would go to 20, you're like, gotcha.
I did deal like 20 commander damage to one person today and didn't quite kill them.
Ooh, you needed a Vasswood Fortification.
Vasswood Fortification would have got there. Damn you.
I took apart my Skullbriar deck at the worst possible time because there's all these cards coming out that make me go, oh, this would be so good in that deck. And then they were just like, oh, you took apart Skullbriar? Here's Ikoria, and we're going to make every type of counter that isn't +1 and make you feel terrible about your life. Next is Tangofluorohedron. What does that do?
It's either a land or a land.
Whoa.
It's actually it's a 2-mana dork that taps for 1 green. Totally reasonable. I mean, again, it can either ramp you or it can just make your land drop for you.
Well, hold on. This is the best creature one. This is the only creature one I'd recommend playing a fair bit of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's a mana dork.
It's a mana dork. Exactly. If you're not playing a super optimized mana dork deck where it's like draw 1, then hey, this one isn't a land slot, and that's gonna feel so much better than any of those like Druid or the Cowls or anything like that.
Yeah, it's also an elemental. That is one of the most common creature types, so it's probably one of the most common tribes. Stick this in over a Llanowar Elf if you're in base green elementals.
Triggers your what's it called? Risen Reefs.
Oh, it does trigger Risen Reef, which is something. Next, Bellaga Recovery, the best non-mythic. I don't know if it's better than some of the mythics. Doesn't matter. Tuna Green, sorcery, regrowth. It's regrowth for 1 more mana, and it's a land on the other side. This is the one. I think it's a green-ish staple in 1 or 2 colors.
Yes, if we're not talking about the mythics, this is probably just the best one. It's better than most of the rares. This card is completely and utterly just insane. I knew you were gonna laugh. This card is completely insane. It's so good for an uncommon. Like you just
I might call it completely efficient or like completely great. I don't know.
It's so good.
It's insane.
You just don't get you don't get like you see all these MDFCs. They're like usually they're bad effects or overcosted effects that you don't really want, but you'll take them because of the landing on your side. This is an effect you already want, overcosted by 1 mana, and that's perfect. I mean, Regrowth is super playable and super fine card. Eternal Witness is amazing, an amazing card. Bellaga Recovery is also, it's like on Eternal Witness levels of like staple and good.
I think so. It's a land, or it's that. Well, if you have no graveyard, Eternal Witness stinks. If you have no graveyard, play land.
Yeah. This card, yeah. Bellaga Recovery, like I said, I think this is just the best one that's not a mythic that can come in on tap.
Yeah, I mean, late game, this does a weird tutor impression. Search your library for the best card you've played this game, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it says.
Exactly, yeah. If you in long grinding games, this card is just one of those that gets better as the game goes on because obviously your graveyard fills up. The more you play, the more cards you get to choose from. The better the cards are going to be in your graveyard, obviously.
Yes, this card is already up to like $4. Please get them before it goes to 10 or something stupid. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want anybody to not be able to afford
Some-
this uncommon.
One thing I was thinking about is I don't think these are cards you should keep picking up and just keep because there's not really a great place to reprint them anytime soon. I mean, I'm not saying they can never reprint them. I'm not saying that there's not homes, and especially in like some Eternal sets or whatever.
It has to be. They're all specifically Zendikar locations, and they're MDFCs.
Yes.
Where are they supposed to be reprinted?
Exactly. So I feel like these are tough reprints, and like not that we'll never get them again, but they are. I would get them and keep them because they are staples.
And they're double-faced. So if you want to make a set that's like some Modern Masters set, and you're thinking about, hey, should we include these? Well, we don't really have any other double-faced cards, so let's just leave them out. Like that feel like. Why make these the only double-faced cards? It seems tough to reprint these. How about the rare?
Kaizandu Mammoth is a 3/3 with landfall. It gets +2/+2. It's fine.
Yeah, 1 green. We've actually put this in a deck, and I would defend that wholeheartedly. The deck was trying to play infinite lands and make infinite land drops with like Simic Growth Chamber loops. That was the pre-con upgrade, by the way. So this card's like 50 cents, and it's, oh, wait, we're going to use some of these cards and make infinite landfalls, and then this stupid 3/3 that is mostly a land is just going to kill somebody.
Yeah, I think this card's perfectly fine. It's the next best creature, though. Still a creature. Still the worst. Still like the worst like type you can get on the other side. But hey, again, if you're playing a ton of extra lands in your turns, he can be a big boy.
Yeah, you fire off a fetch land and like a Sky Shroud claim. Well, this thing's just, what is it? It gets +8. It's just attacking for 11.
Classic land doing that.
There's just weird things that can happen where you amass this huge giant attack out of nowhere with your land that is sometimes a 3/3. Next, Colony Ambush, Tuna Green. Target creature you control fights. Target creature you don't control. This is a little clunky. It's a little slow. Fight spells are never really that good, but if you've got the biggest things, once in a while, it's a fight. The rest of the time, it's a land.
Yeah, I think that this one goes in any of your big Stampede decks again. It's what gives me the extra boost and what really makes you want to play is another one of the removal spells. And I feel like those really get like that like extra little boost. And though this is finicky, you get the upside of most fights that are sorcery speed. You get the action of it being an instant, which can really help these fight spells because you don't want to go and like on your turn when somebody's holding a mana. You can wait until you can pick your opportunity to really go for it.
Yeah, the fact that they can Doomblade your creature in response to a fight, that's almost just nothing. You know, it's a knock on the card, but it's not don't play that card because creatures die to Doomblade, right? That's not how we evaluate things. I'm looking like Ghalta, like Grothama, where you can just use it to fight your own things. Like there's a lot of cool stuff with this one. I think.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put. It's not like I'm saying just throw this in any deck. Yeah, we don't advise a ton of fight cards. They're not great because of the attempt for the blowout. But this is a land on the other side again. That I can't state it enough. Yeah, I understand. Colony Ambush sucks. That's a bad Magic card. But
Colony Forest or whatever it's called does not stapled to Colony Ambush is great.
Exactly. You staple these two crappy cards together that you would never play. All of a sudden, you got like this really strong card.
If for some reason there's a human being with a pulse who's watching this video and doesn't quite get what we're saying yet, just think of like any charm. Rakdos Charm is a good Magic card, but every mode of Rakdos Charm kind of stinks. If you're paying black-red to destroy an artifact, it's like, well, that's not very good. Black-red to have players lose life, like that's really situational. I wouldn't put that in my deck. Black-red to exile someone's graveyard, it's like, I would never play that. Staple them together and you got a pretty good spell. It's the same thing except lands and a spell. Those are the two halves, and hitting land drops is huge.
Yes. And the very last one is just Turn Timber Symbiosis. It's the green mythic. Same thing.
Slam dunk auto include 1 or 2 colors. Easy. Exactly. Even puts +1/+1 counters. Even can find like an Eldrazi or something if you play those.
Yes. But that's the end of this video, and we hope that you have learned and can put some of these in your deck, because I think that any deck that is trying to stay on, I wanted to say the fun side, but I meant the less powerful side. Fun popped in my head at first, but the less powerful side of like the 7s and below, then I would suggest highly getting not as many, but quite a few in your deck.
If you're on a budget looking to improve your deck, 100% these are like going to work for you and do amazing jobs.
Yeah, I think you get to, like I said, I'm playing like 5 in my Stampede deck, and I think
I have at least 1 in every deck I have.
Yes.
At this point, I have like 9 decks.
Yes. But this is, like I said, that's the end of our video. Special shout outs to every single one of these patrons. You guys are awesome. The numbers just grow daily. I remember back in the day when we got our first couple patrons, it was like once every couple weeks. Like it feels like it's every other day, and it's like, wow, oh my God, I can't, like, you guys you make this job so much easier to do, even on the hard days when it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to edit this video. Then the Patreon pops up. It's like, oh, they like us so much they gave me money.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. I love having a community that supports us. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy.
And we support you too. It's not like on the note of like you're helping us financially and helping us get our career going, but we're in that Discord every day talking to you, and we're supportive of like all of our fans and all of the people in the Magic community.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like. I don't mean this from any negative. I'm not coming from a negative spot when I say this, but like supporting us actually kind of pays off for you too. Like we're really involved with our own community.
What Beezy's trying to say.
I just did it.
No, what he's trying to say, and how we could say it a little better is we're effing amazing.
Yes.
And supporting us is the best thing you can do because we're so awesome.
Yes. When you die and get a highlight reel of your life, this will definitely be the top.
But on a real note, thanks again for the support, guys. If you want to support us without spending any money on us directly, you can go to the TCG Player link in the description below. That link will take you to tcgplayer.com. You can buy any Magic cards you're planning on buying. They have a large selection, and a lot of local game shops post on there, so you'll be able to support local game shops that way. And you've gone through that link. Whatever you buy will indeed get us some kickback. They see that, and we appreciate it.
Oh, now it's time for tidbit.
Your
I have
turn.
one, but it's really random.
Go ahead.
Does it not matter?
Okay.
I was watching a video, and this guy, they brought on an expert, and he was an expert in like psychology, basically, and like what makes people do things.
Okay.
And he was just talking about, I think what they were talking about was like anti-maskers and like the heavy like conspiracy theory stuff, and like what actually drives someone to fall into line with like stuff that on paper makes absolutely no sense. And he was talking about it's basically just the like humans have such an intense desire to belong and join things. What happens is the first thing you say is, I want to belong to like, I have a sense of belonging with this group. So like it starts with like a positive feeling. And then something will happen that triggers like dissonance. Like, oh, I'm part of this group, but now like these people are saying they don't want to wear masks and that's not safe. What happens is your brain picks a side, and the brain doesn't care like which side you pick. So it picks the side of keeping the belonging. It doesn't care if you're on the right side or the wrong side. And it just goes, okay, now we have to justify being with this. So this is all subconscious. So you don't even know you're doing it. You just pick the side and you go, yep, burning masks on Capitol grounds or whatever is the right thing to do. And you yourself will make a different argument for it. Like, yeah, I don't tell me what to do, or I choose my own destiny or whatever. I just thought that was crazy. That's the first thing I thought of.
That's super random and certainly not what I was expecting.
No, how could it be? It's the most random thing in the world.
Yeah, the Nitpicking are pro science and pro mask. Wow.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought we're basically what we're trying to say is we're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout.
Yes.
We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain. Peace out, Tribe Scout. We're pro using your brain